Welcome to Drak and Shadow Vlogs, everyone, with your hosts, of course, Shadowblazer 3000.
And I'm Drak.
He's Drak2326.
And these are a bottle of Happy Pills. I'm going to be taking a very thorough dose after this review. Alright, I'm good.
Well, we're here to talk about the Hunger Games Mockingjay.
Part 1.
Part
one, we're trying to cash this cow as much as we can.
Yes, thank you very much, Lionsgate Pictures.
Thank you very much, Hollywood, because that's all we're getting right now.
Yes, yeah.
Alright, well, before we get this thing started, we do premise this every time, so if people are getting bored, I'm sorry. But if you have not seen the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1,
and you want to,
we are going to be talking heavy spoilers, including talking about the book. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to switch it off, go see it, and then switch us back on, because we love your views.
so let's get to it.
Yes. And the plot synopsis will be rough today by the Shadowblazer.
It'll be probably pretty rough, but let's take a stab at it, shall we? So, this Mockingjay, I always want to either call it Catching Fire or something else, but that was the previous film. Mockingjay takes place, of course, at sometime, doesn't really say when, how long. Takes a little time after the events of Catching Fire.
It's roughly, I think in the book it's like a couple of months after.
Yeah, probably the case of the movie, too.
Yeah.
So Katniss has been shipped away to this special hidden district known as District 13.
Mm-hmm.
An elaborate underground facility that would make even Nerve jealous.
I'm so glad you made that joke, because we could have. Or the SGC.
Or the SGC, yes.
Yeah, so it's not that she... Well, if everybody remembers from Catching Fire, she was... The way that it ended was she was in a hovercraft on her way to District 13. So
Yes.
basically...
Now she's there.
Now she's there. Now she's recovering from the games. As well as... this is not really portrayed well in the movie, and this is going to be one of... I'm just going to brace people right now. I've got lots of gripes. At this point, Katniss is basically, she's seen so much that she's kind of teetering on the brink at this point. And so...
She has a lot of trauma to deal with.
Well, yeah, and at this point, it's really... The lines between reality and fantasy are blurring, because she just can't believe how much darkness she's seen in her life, basically.
Yes.
Death and destruction. So...
So here in District 13, she's there because she made such an impact during the Hunger Games and between the first and second movies. The people of District 13 and this rebel underground president known as Coin, I think that was her name.
Alma Coin. Yeah.
Alma Coin. They want to, of course, make her their propaganda tool.
Coined as the Mockingjay.
The Mockingjay. So, as such, Katniss at first doesn't want to be a part of it.
No, let's just be honest about this. Katniss decides for the first 20 minutes that she is going to pull a Bella Swan. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. Are you?
I can't choose! Who should I go with?
We'll get into our gripes in the movies a bit later, but
Yeah.
as such, her one demand, of course, for them to be given her... What am I trying to say? Her one demand, anyway, is that they will, of course, rescue Peeta. They will rescue the other participants of the Hunger Games, the previous match, in fact, to be specific, and give them full pardons, give them full immunity for anything they've done.
Let me step in here really quick. So, before all this happens, we start to see that basically Peeta is being used as a tool against her, because they're putting him up on TV, they're having him do interviews, and having him basically... What it very much feels like is that he's reading from a prompter, kind of thing. You have to hit these talking points or we're going to kill Katniss or whatever.
Yes, he's being conditioned to spread the capital's propaganda.
Yes. So at this point, that's what's creating indecision within Katniss, because she, first of all, she's still livid from the previous games, and then she's also like a fish out of water in this new district. And then they're asking her to basically put herself back into the games, so to speak. They're asking her to put herself back into a war environment. And one of the things that she knows, which is part of her negotiating point with Coin, is she's just, well, at least in her justification, she's just as responsible as any of the other victors. I mean, they were put into an arena and told to survive, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so at that point, she wants immunity for the other tributes. And that's a very stiff point, especially given all the propaganda that PETA's been putting out, because at this point District 13 thinks of him as a raw traitor. Because they, she sees behind the scenes, a lot of the District 13 people don't. So we have that moment, and then the other, there are a couple of negotiating points, but the other is that we actually skipped over something. So in order to get her to be the Mockingjay, they send her out to the now firebombed District 12, because she needs to see what has happened. And it's actually a really, really good scene that kind of establishes the chaos that war can bring. And after that point, she actually goes back to her house in the Victor's Village and finds Prim's cat. So that's one of the other conditions, is since District 13 is a very ordered society, which wasn't really conveyed that well, in my opinion, but the other condition is that Prim gets to keep her cat. So, let's see. Well, you're supposed to be doing all this stuff. I don't know why I'm doing it.
He's usually the one doing it. Tonight I'm taking the helm. But as such, as you can tell, I'm not very good at summarizing plots very well.
Well, do you want me to take over, or what?
No,
okay.
It's okay. Okay, but well, I usually just get very brief, and we tend to go much more deep into synopsis territory. I just rather give summaries usually, but
okay. Yeah.
But so as such, when Katniss accepts the job, of course, to be the Mockingjay, they do their best to prop her up, and they try to make these propaganda videos with her triumphantly coming out of battle, but it's not catching on. It's not taking effect because Katniss is just not the one you can put into a little script. They decide
she has to live in the moment.
Yes, they decide spontaneity is the key to Katniss really selling the propaganda for District 13 and the rebellion. As such, they get a propaganda crew to follow her to these bombed-out districts everywhere they can.
Basically putting her into war zones and then filming it.
Yes. They go to District 8. Was 8, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you remember from the second movie, District 8 had broken out in riots.
Right.
At that point.
Right. So they go to District 8. It's been completely ravaged by fire bombings. They visit a hospital, what's pretty much a combination hospital and refugee center, because she sees all the wounded. The capital decides to spring a surprise attack on Katniss and the other rebels with her. As such, this puts Katniss into a really angry tiz.
Well, the reason that they did that was because she's visiting a hospital, a makeshift hospital in the district, and they are literally targeting the hospital.
Yes, they do.
And they bomb it.
They bomb it out.
So that at that point they turn on the cameras and say, Katniss, what do you feel? And that's where they get a lot of their
raw, powerful emotion. And Katniss declares, President Snow, we burn, you will burn with us.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful message.
Yep.
As the plot in the film continues, we see more efforts by the rebels. The various districts uprising, such as the busting out of a dam. They take out a dam.
Yes.
We continue to see PETA in these propaganda videos.
Yeah, pretty much for every propaganda shot that is done, it's basically like PETA gets the first, and then Katniss does one, and then they bring Peeta back
Yes,
out.
and we gradually see Peeta is really being
I couldn't tell if it was a CG job or whatever, but they're trying to make him look thinner and gaunter.
Yes.
Over this time, and so you're kind of getting the point that he's been treated poorly.
Yes, a physical toll is really being taken on him.
Yes.
And Katniss continues to see it.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, we actually have another point where they go to do propaganda in District 12. Where we get to hear basically, it's a funny little propaganda shot because it's not Katniss talking, it's Gale, Liam Hemsworth's character, and he explains what happened that night.
And basically, he's doing the propaganda as a sort of means of jamming the systems.
No. That's after.
I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah. At that point, that's where they get her to sing, and then they use that for the other propaganda spot.
Right.
So after all this stuff is kind of going on, and like Alex said, they bombed a dam, which is actually kind of the hydroelectric dam for the entire capital,
Mm-hmm.
which that's a good thing because now there is no power going to protecting the city or deflecting any signals, so they can do like an open propaganda deal. And it also opens up another opportunity, the possibility of rescuing the other tributes that did not make it out of the arena. So... well, the other alive tributes.
Yes.
So at this point, in kind of the final propaganda shot with Peeta, they kind of chime in and have Katniss and him talking, to which we find out that now, through Peeta decides to warn them of District 13 is going to get bombed. And we have a very big moment of that where everybody kind of gets huddled into a bomb shelter, and you get to see... just kind of how crazy it's been for them, for the people in District 13. And that's when they realize they have the opportunity to go and rescue the tributes. So then it becomes a race, because they have to keep the signals dampened. They have to keep the signals going haywire so that they can perform the rescue. So then at that point they pull out Finnick, and that's what you're thinking.
Yes, Finnick. So they pull out Finnick, then they have him go on a long propaganda string. Or at least that's what they're pretending to feed the Capitol, when really it's sort of a Trojan.
So to speak, yeah. It's basically that Finnick has been given free mic. Every dark thing he has ever endured since after his games, he gets to spill his guts now.
Yes.
And so he just kind of sits there for a while this mission goes out. And bottom line, mission successful. They bring back the previous tributes. We get to see them. But
something's not quite right as Katniss sees Peeta for the first time, but he violently lashes out and attacks her.
Tries to kill her. And then at that point we are given... he's been basically reprogrammed to hate Katniss. And so he can't see her as anything but evil at this point. And that's kind of where the film decides to end on a cliffhanger, because you basically are having speeches going out, I think from, is it Coin?
Yes,
speaking?
Coin is given the last speech, the rallying cry.
And you have these moments where they're slowly going over to Katniss as she goes to Peeta's room, which is completely isolated, and how he's writhing around in the bed.
Yep.
And that's where this cuts off for part 2.
Well, Adam, I guess you're going to take the helm first.
I would actually like you to take the helm. So, positive things about the film.
Okay, Adam. Well, I'm going to say that I've enjoyed this film a lot more than the previous two.
Yes.
But I definitely enjoyed Catching Fire much more than the Hunger Games 1, and I enjoyed this one even more. Technically, on just about every merit, the film is very well made. There's a lot of great shots, there's a lot of great effects, a lot of great set design. It's a great combination of a lot of different filmmaking techniques. It doesn't rely too heavily on green screens. You'll see a lot of real physical sets, which is a real nice treat for the eyes.
Yes.
The acting is pretty well done across the cast. I mean, Donald Sutherland is calculating and cold and creepy as ever.
As he's been in the last two movies.
Yes. I'd say even more, in fact, in this one. I remember him in the first one. He was kind of the kindly old president.
He still was, yes, but
Yes.
you could see the subtle evil
Yes.
kind of getting broken out.
He's always had
Here-
the calculating aspect.
Here it's true colors.
Yes, because he's backed into the corner now, and now he's not letting...
In fact, that's one of the things that I appreciate about Donald is because after hearing all this just stink from Finnick on President Snow, because he goes into all the rumors he's ever heard, and then at that point they actually start to lose the signal, so Katniss offers to be filmed, and then at that point, I mean, was there ever, like, for 80% of the other movies, he was serious-faced.
Mm-hmm.
Here, he was smiling and loving every evil moment he could.
Oh yeah, he was reveling in that.
Yeah, it's almost like he kind of looked at that and went, well, gloves are off now, and enjoyed it. So I'll give you that.
I find the film's actually pretty well paced. It didn't feel too long. I think Catching Fire felt longer than this one.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a lot of good editing choices and a lot of great music cues too.
Hmm.
So, you want to go?
Positive stuff. You kind of hit a lot of the stuff that I did like. As far as film is concerned, this is good. This is okay. The execution was well done. That's kind of where the movie ended is kind of where I thought they would end it, because it establishes a whole other plot that you can deal with in the next movie. The shots were gorgeous in some cases, especially establishing shots. And for people who are not in the know-how, establishing shots is basically showing the atmosphere for what it is. And this film was full of it. All the District 13 shots were wonderfully executed. You really do get a feeling of this has been their home for years. And it's dark, it's dank, but it's been their home. And a lot of those shots of just hundreds of people moving up and down the stairs, it was a really good touch to do.
Yeah. I mean, what a difference this director has been over the first director from the first movie.
Yes. There were a couple of points where I was really worried because you could see the camera shaking a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was worried we were going to go back to the shaky cam, but we did not.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of that in Catching Fire, and I caught up on that pretty much yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was definitely concerned. In fact, it's one of the only reasons I was planning on returning to this, because I was really lukewarm about the first movie. I absolutely despised all the shaky cam cinematography in the first movie.
I think you and me both said when we watched it, we both walked out with headaches.
Yes, it was a jumbled mess, that first movie, visually. It was, I mean, there's just no reason to shoot your entire movie handheld.
Yep.
Okay, I want to do this, I want to give an example, but a lot of directors will try and make this justification that it adds more tension or more realism or more of a documentarian feel, but I want to show you that people don't run like this.
Oh my gosh! Oh, it's absolute chaos! Oh my gosh!
I'm sorry for the crazy.
There's nobody here. I'm all alone.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the weird camera level for that spontaneous moment. I gotta adjust it a little bit more, but
This is just a moment for us to educate the audience.
doing it live. No, I absolutely despise shaky camera, and I despise it when it's abused.
I love the fact that everybody comes out and says, it's the newest way to film. No, it's lazy.
Yes, it is.
It's lazy. Build a rail. You know?
Yes.
You know good directors from bad directors when those good directors are building rails or finding ways to prop up a camera and not have a handy cam.
Or use a steady cam. There's a difference between the handheld and the steady cam.
Yep.
The steady cam does move, but it's a more smooth motion because of the gyroscope.
Uh-huh.
And the handheld is just free-form cameras, which is what you could do with a handy cam.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting a little techno-babble here, but
No, that's fine.
we're the film student, and
Yeah.
so as such I get a little techno-babble heavy, but okay, back on the film.
So the other thing, like I said, the execution was really well done, and a lot of the establishing shots were just awesome.
Yes.
It established the situation. My two in particular favorites were the District 13 shots and then the District 12 shots, where they focus on like a specific street. I'm guessing this is like the main street of District 12, and it's just littered with bones, and that is a dark scene to behold.
Yeah,
and especially
very disturbing.
Especially how they did it, where they could have had just a bunch of smoke rolling off, and no, they let the bones be there.
Yeah.
Thing.
This film, I gotta say, it doesn't hold back too much, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We even see executions. It's not particularly graphic, but we see these executions go down, pretty much. They cut that shot the very last second.
And what's even better is, I don't know if you noticed it, but when they did the District 12 propaganda shot, they did cinematographical runs while Gale was talking of that path. And it emphasized his story. Because this is where he stood when it happened.
Right.
So at that point, that just made the scene even better. To have... you didn't even need to focus on Gale as much as they did. You could just focus on the scene and him looking at it.
Absolutely.
Because he's remembering it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the actors, I will say, did as good as I was going to expect them to do. Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest his soul, did well in the Plutarch role. In fact, it feels like they expanded the role a little bit in the first part, because I don't remember him being that actively involved. We also got to see Elizabeth Banks return as Effie Trinket, except without all the creepy...
all the makeup.
Without all the creepy Mad Hatter makeup, yeah. And she got to show that she could act intimidating and subtle without all of that. So that was kind of welcoming. The only complaints the only people that I think should stand out, I can't remember the actor's name, but Finnick Odair. I liked his delivery at the end where he's talking about all of the scenes that are going on. I think that was very well done, because that's a telling moment in the book. I enjoyed that moment in the book, where we got to have that moment and say, well, it's not... people think it's super easy for the victors. No, it's not. Liam Hemsworth is still very exemplary. I mean, I get why he's hanging out in the Hunger Games, but if this guy actually got given an action hero role, I'd probably see it with him tied to it. And yeah,
You didn't care for Jennifer Lawrence.
We'll get there.
I gotta say, I think Jennifer Lawrence has finally gotten into the groove of the character and much more improved over the first film. The first film I found her pretty deadpan. This one and the previous one, I think she's started to emote a lot more and really gets into the moment and really gets into the mood.
Mm-hmm. We'll get there. So yeah, those are the positive things that I can point out. The music and the sound didn't really stand out to me that much. Because when I have to sit there and compare it in my head, did the shot actually tell the story or did the song? And in most cases, the shot told the story more than the music and the sound ever did. So that's the positive stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the negative stuff. And again, Alex, go first, because mine is going to be pretty long.
I've never cared for the whole love triangle thing that this movie's had going for the last 3 chapters. What's the point? What is the point? I don't care if that's in the books. It's a stupid decision. It just makes it look like your movies, or makes it look like your story's already more of a ripoff than it probably already is. A lot of people already compare this to Battle Royale. And I know Suzanne Collins has denied copying Battle Royale. I don't want to say one way or the either, because I've done that myself. I've copied things without probably even knowing it. So I always want to give that writer the benefit of the doubt there, but when you have to throw in this weird love triangle, now it's like, what? Twilight's infused in this suddenly? I never cared for the whole romance plot. If Gale was more just somebody Katniss was really close with, and maybe he
is, but
yes.
The movies never painted that.
The movies, really want to go out of their way to paint this like she's truly in love with him. If it was a childhood crush that's kind of lingered, I guess I can understand. But
but none of that's been established in the movies.
in the movies, absolutely. So it's like, well, who do I choose, Peeta or Gale? It's like, are you?
And people might be wondering why we say that. Okay, look, to the people who have read the Hunger Games books, good for you. What is this movie supposed to do? It's supposed to get people involved who haven't read the books.
Exactly.
And possibly even get them to read the books. Alright?
Yes.
And that's the problem. Is that where I, as a person who have read the books, know a lot of this stuff, I know that there was room to grow on that matter, and they didn't do it at all.
And as I, who haven't read the books,
it seems forced to him.
Yes.
Okay, so with that said, go on.
Other negatives I have to think about. There were times I felt the edits were too quick, the scenes were too quick to end. Like the scenes, of course, where they go into rescue. I guess I can understand why they cut that there, because they... But there's so many times they kept cutting back to District 13, and which is fine, but I'm so caught up in the suspense of this rescue mission, and you keep taking me out of that suspense to keep going back to Katniss for some reason. When it's appropriate, but many times it kept cutting when it wasn't appropriate, which is a shame because there's still a lot of good editing and a lot of good shots in this, but there were just times it was a little choppy to me.
Okay.
Those are my negatives in a nutshell. And I guess go ahead because you're going to rant, you're going to tirade.
Well, before I do, you see that big flame shield battery? You better go turn it on right now, because there's actually nothing like that. Okay. I think I said it when we did our best of 2013, that Catching Fire was an improvement. Since then, I have read the book series. I had up until that point read halfway into Catching Fire when I saw the movie. Mainly because I was doing a project for my college where I was actually part of a Hunger Games radio drama, and I needed to know about the characters. So, since then, I've read the books. And Suzanne Collins fans, I'm not trying to say anything mean to you, but Suzanne Collins can kiss my ass. Because, oh my gosh, I need a Prozac right after I finished the books. I needed a Prozac 10 minutes into this movie. And you know what, boys and girls? In fact, dear Suzanne Collins, if you're looking for a way to write a fourth book, just put a zombie plague in there. That way you've hit every post-apocalyptic trope you can possibly do. People think I'm kidding. No, I'm not. I am so sick and tired of the post-apocalyptic story, and this has almost every stinking trope available in them. On top of that, it's post-apocalypse meets Twilight! And people might not like the fact that I'm saying that and say, well, Katniss is stronger than Bella Swan. You see it, I don't. Because the way that it's been painted in these films is she's not. Especially with the whole love triangle crap. I mean, there's nobody to actually... You know, there are a lot of people that I've actually seen say, what's different about Hunger Games and Twilight? I don't argue with them on that. Because Katniss, Peeta, Gale equals Bella, Jacob, Edward. It really does. It is a stupid story. It is a stupid love triangle story that really has no resolution whatsoever. And yes, I've read the end. That's not a resolution. I will say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I loathe and despise this book series. I loathe and despise these movies. Because of them, I don't get to have good heroes anymore. Alright? People have actually asked me, since we're doing a Zelda LP, wouldn't you love a Legend of Zelda movie? No, I wouldn't. And here's the main reason why. Hunger Games. Because they would try beyond every shadow of a doubt to darken the Legend of Zelda. And you know what? Sometimes heroes can be genuine people. Sometimes heroes can just be good guys. I get the fact that a lot of this whole aspect of Katniss is she's not a good person. And she acknowledges that. Okay. then why are you continuing to paint her as a hero, or in some cases, freaking, I don't even want to say the word, she's almost a messianic figure in these films and in these books. Alright? She's literally looked upon as that. I mean, I could make a dozen comparisons to religious symbols and the Mockingjay. Because that's what it is. So, again, I want to emphasize, the film, as far as filming elements, is good. Alright? This director did a good job with what he had. This story drives me up a freaking tree. It is just everything I see wrong with film right now. Because we can't have genuine heroes anymore. To the people who don't like Man of Steel, Hunger Games is why you didn't get the Superman you wanted in Man of Steel. Because this is supposedly what the public says they'd want. That's why you got a brooding Superman. Do you want to know the best way to counteract that? Stop seeing stuff like this. Stop making it pop culture. It's just that simple. To the people who are Hunger Games fans, I'm sorry, but I'm just speaking my mind. And you know what? I live in a country where I am able to do so. Okay? Now, that with that said, I'm not done yet. Jennifer Lawrence, I like you in every other role I've seen, except this one. And you know what? I'm starting to get the feeling you don't like this role either. Because in a lot of cases where you could just go all out on this character, this is a character in this movie where she's teetering on sanity. And this film focused nothing of it. And when it did, very, very little. And you could tell Jennifer didn't want to do those scenes. Does that tell you something? She could have won a freaking Oscar for half the crap that happens in the book. And if they actually established it.
Right.
I'm starting to think Jennifer Lawrence doesn't like this character. I can't say I blame her. Another actress that I'm just going to pull out there.
Julianne Moore.
Why Julianne Moore? She did not establish Al McCoy. Okay? She tried to play the more compassionate road, and okay, I've read the book. Al McCoy is not compassionate by any stretch. She's very cold. She's very robotic. She is the embodiment of what District 13 is. And so, in a lot of cases, that felt so false to me that, I mean, right off the bat, you can't trust District 13. There's a lot of points in the book where you know where District 13 stands because Al McCoy really kind of embodies that. Alright? This one did not embody it whatsoever. The shots embodied District 13, but Al McCoy did not. And I'll just be perfectly honest. I've seen a couple of Julianne Moore films. She's not as great as people make her out to be. Maybe I just didn't see the big ones, but I just don't see it. I see her going into a movie and just saying, hey, I'm Julianne Moore, I'll do what I want. If I'm going to ham it up on screen, I'm going to ham it up on screen. That's really what I see. And I think this role is no different. I think Julianne Moore probably looked the director in the eye and just said, look, I'm not going to play this cold, calculating person. I'm going to give her feelings. Because I think that's the way to go. Well, problem is, she would have been way more intimidating, which is what she's supposed to be, if she didn't.
Yeah, you know...
You know what? Somebody go out and call Jerry Ryan because she's played cold, calculated, and robotic. She'd get it. And hey, here's the plus. She doesn't have to wear skin-tight anything.
I think you make an interesting point that possibly Julianne Moore just kind of came in and ordered herself the way her character... You know, it's the one thing I absolutely despise about actors, well, some actors, quote-unquote, today, is many of them start to come in and override the script, they override the director, and they play the character exactly like they want. It's fine when you have a charismatic actor like the late Robin Williams, then it kind of works. Or if it's a comedy, obviously comedy, you gotta be experimental to make sure it's funny. But many times, so many actors come in and they just they make the movie the way they want to make it instead of becoming the role. They let the role they make the role instead of becoming the role, and it's the thing that drives me crazy about actors today.
It's actually quite the opposite. They don't become the character they're supposed to be. They make the character what they see it as being.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say, and I guess I fumbled that out.
And Julianne Moore is one of the bigger examples of that. I'm trying to think of a... Oh, I've got a male example. There's a reason I've never seen a Travolta movie. Because he's kind of got that problem. There's a reason that I don't necessarily like Alec Baldwin. Because Baldwin kind of does that too. In his earlier career, which is actually what I like, he didn't. He was very humble. At least in my perception. I don't like anything that Alec has currently done. So, that's kind of the issue here.
Anything more to rant on?
Before we lose all of our subscribers. And guys, again, if people are pissed off, I'm sorry. But again, I'm stating my opinion because I can do so. And you can have your opinion, and that's fine. We don't have to agree on this. But I did not like this film. And on a number of levels. I could go way more into the negative, but I think I pretty much hit every point that I want to hit.
Well, Drak, I gotta say I must kind of disagree with your assertion that the Hunger Games is wholly responsible for why films are really dark and gritty these days.
Or that we have
have
anti-heroes more than heroes.
Yes, I mean, frankly, this has been a trend that's kind of gone this way for longer than the Hunger Games has even probably been published as a book so much as it's
I'd agree with you wholeheartedly.
Screen. I mean, you can look as far back. I mean, I almost hate to go this route, but I've seen this kind of commonly thought about through film theory is that 9/11 just kind of changed our film attitude when we went from the optimistic and upbeat 90s into the new millennium where things have been starting to get crazy and chaotic
and dark
and unpleasant that, well, our pop culture has kind of followed suit.
Yeah.
I mean,
let me clarify.
You want an before you go there, just if you want an even earlier example than the Hunger Games, that's only a few years behind, just look to the Dark Knight trilogy of Christopher Nolan. That, granted, it's Batman. I know Batman's always been the dark and kind of brooding type of character, but
no, I agree with that.
But those movies were really that kind to bring about that serious, gritty realism. And I'm sorry about Man of Steel, but I think Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder are the two wholly responsible for bringing dark Superman to the screen.
Or Super Batman.
Or Super Batman.
No, the reason I stated what I did was simply, this is a shining example of why we can't get that now. Is because this is what people want. I'm not saying all people are wrong, but I don't know about you guys, I'm sick and tired of post-apocalyptic stories.
You know,
they were good for the last few, for the first year or so we got them. I'm done. I want a new idea. It's just that simple.
I agree, actually. I am kind of over the post-apocalyptic as much as I'm over the zombie plagues.
Yeah, I mean, and people might not like me for saying that, but dude, this had every post-apocalyptic trope except for the zombie plague.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I almost expect a comic book to come out of Hunger Games meets World War Z. Or Marvel Zombies, because you know what? I want to see zombie Captain America unload on Katniss.
Hunger Games meets Attack on Titan.
Ooh, no, because then Katniss would be the hero there. No, I want zombie Captain America to beat the crap out of Katniss. I have no problem with Jennifer Lawrence. She's a good actress. She's good in everything else I've seen. But I don't like this character, and I think Jennifer Lawrence doesn't like it either.
Well, I think for the first time, Drak and I really have a split disagreement on the film. Drak kind of...
Oh my gosh, we're Siskel and Ebert now? Holy crap!
Yeah.
It's almost like we're critics or something.
So, thumbs. Then in that case, I guess thumbs up for me and thumbs down for.
Let's give an actual score. We'll do the thumbs up, thumbs down because we don't want to get copyright flagged.
Okay, well, my final assessment: The Hunger Games is a fine series of movies. If you're not in, but Drak does have a point. It does hit on every single post-apocalyptic trope, and pretty much plays them exactly straight. And of course, if you're probably the one who thinks that this is a battle royale clone, well, you're probably not going to like it anyway. But ultimately, solid execution of a film, well-made film. Few story problems, sure, but I found it to be a decent and enjoyable experience throughout. Loved a lot of the themes it touches on. So my final score for The Hunger Games Mockingjay is an 8.
All right, so you give it a solid B technically there.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it a C, and I'm gonna give it a 7. And the reason
That's a lot more generous than I thought you were going to give it, honestly.
I'm actually kind of surprised at myself too. Again, the cinematography, the camera shots, the sound. The sound is not as memorable, but the camera angles and the establishing shots really are what kind of made this movie, and I do want to compliment that. Some of the actors worked their butts off, and for that they deserve the accolades they get. I cannot justify going any higher than a 7, and because Hunger Games fans, you will enjoy it. Post-apocalyptic fans, you'll enjoy it. I'm not a post-apocalyptic fan, therefore I don't enjoy it. You know what? I wanted to be jealous, or I wanted to be generous. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
All right.
6.5. You get a D+. And the main reason is that the story it is trying to tell drives me absolutely nuts. And I am so sick and tired of these stories and these tropes that... And, Suzanne Collins can take her money to the bank. I don't care. But this really needs to end, and until then... I don't want a Legend of Zelda movie. I don't want a Mario movie. I don't want any legitimate hero brought in, because they're just gonna get bogged down in the anti-hero mess. So, love me, hate me. I guess we'll just have to disagree on this one point. So let's talk about what we have next. We actually are going to be taking a bit of a break. Our next movie is not until December, and I think late December, right?
About middle of December, I think. Somewhere in the middle. Maybe.
And that one is probably going to depress the crap out of me, but that's just because there are no movies after it. And that is The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. But we actually have a special announcement in regards to that. If people remember our Ninja Turtles review, the panel of Geek News reviews and opinions are going to get back together for The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. And we're going to review it. So get ready to see a lot of Romney's reviews and a lot of Aldo Gomez, a.k.a. Board Offline or Anime Overdub EVS. And we're actually very excited about doing this. This is going to be a great way to end out the year.
That's right.
So until then, until The Hobbit, we'll see you next time.